What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. The bull run is still alive. The dream is not dead. So if you remember, last Friday, I mentioned that not closing below this level on the weekly chart was going to be one of the biggest signals that we were possibly going to get that the bull run is still alive and things are not going down yet. Well, keyword yet. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but at the very least, based on what the market has shown us, I would say it is a little bit more likely now that the bull run is still alive, and there's still a chance that we are going to continue going up. And one thing's for sure, it is looking less and less like capitulation, more and more as just some kind of short-term distribution for just to sweep out the weekends before price continues going back up to the upside. That is my take. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about the long-term outlook for Bitcoin and give you guys the intraday setup. So let's kick things off with that long-term outlook. The reason why we did not want to see a candle close below here is that that would signal a change in state of delivery to the bearish direction. Now, this is the concept that we have used throughout the last 8 months, where I've been making 151 public trade calls right here on YouTube. This is one of the most consistent signals that we have gotten when it comes to our trades. And again, the proof is in the pudding, right? This is kind of like an 80% hit rate kind of strategy. And even if you account for some losing streaks, it's still good enough for 70% of the time. So as change in state of delivery essentially just means that we're going to shift from a period of bullish order flow where you are having bullish order blocks and bullish fair value gaps being respected, to a bearish order flow state where now you start disrespecting them and you start respecting bearish PD arrays instead, and the price is just going to go down from that point onwards. So the fact that this has not happened is a really good sign. It means that we could potentially still look for price to go up this week. However, because we still ultimately closed bearish, the bias for this week is still going to be bearish. Either way, this level is still going to be the one to hold. You can trade below it, don't get me wrong, but you just don't really want to close below it. Now, one could argue that even if you were to close below this level, it's still fine, because we have had situations in the past before where we have, just one candle close and ultimately price continued to go up. And in this case, it is the same as well, where we have this fair value gap that has not yet been filled. If you draw a fib from this low to this high, this fair value gap here lines up with the 0.705. So that is still the argument that you could just go down here before this being the retracement, and then you continue on with the trend, kind of like what we see before with this one right here, where we fill in the fair value gap, and boom, off you go back in the trend. The only concern with this one is the fact that this previous one was just one bearish PD array. Now, in the event that you go all the way down here, you are looking at a much bigger PD array and potentially a lot more volume to overcome. That would be the only concern, but again, we play it one day at a time. We can have our opinions about the market, but what's important is that we trade what the market is telling us. This was also the exact methodology that has allowed us to, capture all of these shorts, make sure we caught the top while everyone was getting wrecked. In the event that we sweep these relatively equal highs at around the hours between 8 to 10 a.m., we're going to be looking for price to give a short-term time frame, right? Meaning the 5-minute chart to start breaking lower, and then we're going to take that trade down to 119,600 or potentially lower, based on the targets that I've set before. I think it was 118,400. So at the moment, we're going to trade what the market is telling us. So far, not yet bearish, but short term, because of the last weekly candle, we are looking a bit bearish. So we're going to look for shorts as we head into this week. Unless something changes on the daily chart, then we can start flipping towards the long side. Just understand that in terms of the grand scheme of things, you are still looking very bullish, not just price action wise, but also macroeconomically wise. In a few months, we could potentially be looking at minus 100 or even minus 200 basis points in terms of interest rates. And that is going to be a wonderful place to be in for risk on assets like crypto, like Bitcoin, like the stock market and stuff along those lines. So besides that, you also have gold obviously being really strong right now. Everyone is kind of flocking into gold, but it's a matter of time until this kind of finds its top. I just want to show you what happens once we find some kind of top on gold, right? This was 10th of August, 2020. And that is when you went into a little bearish period all the way until March of 2021. Now, if I just go to Bitcoin for that exact same period, let's see here, August of 2020. Right, so this was around August of 2020. Boom, that was when gold found its top, and kaboom. And obviously there are a lot of other factors, and obviously that gold found the bottom at around March, and that's when Bitcoin also kind of found its top. Now, this is just one isolated incident, of course. This is not a huge amount of sample size, but the conditions for the market this time around does look pretty similar, in the sense that back then we started getting more rate cuts, and obviously right now we're in the start of a period where we're about to go into rate cuts again. slight differences in macroeconomic kind of conditions, but the playbook, I think, is going to be down to a combination of factors, right? We take into account price action, which at the moment is looking bullish. We take into account macroeconomic factors, which right now is bearish, but heading in a bullish direction. And then we take into account other stuff. Like, for example, $20 billion worth of liquidations just happened in that one singular candle. And that's a really good sign because everyone who was just in free profit over the last few months got wiped out. Everyone who was irresponsible with your money got wiped out. Everyone who is new to the markets and don't know what they're doing and take on really huge sums of leverage got wiped out. And that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing for the market because in order to go higher, you need fuel. Like the market isn't just going to go higher just because, you buy into Bitcoin or whatever. In order for the market to go up, you need losers. Losers ultimately feed into people opening winning positions, right? Without these people, right, for example, getting stopped out here and then having the market sell here, there would be no liquidity for the big players who are looking to buy into this area. Without losers, you do not have big players pushing the market towards the upside. You do not have big players buying into positions at good prices so that the market can eventually go up. So there, I repeat that twice. Make sure you remove the first one. So anyways, that's enough about the long term. Just understand that right now, my opinion is that, we're overall bullish. I haven't personally seen signs yet that the market is over. So look to accumulate. These are really good times to be accumulating at the moment. Similar to, what happened back here where I called the bottom. I told you guys to, hey, buy Bitcoin, buy altcoins, whatever. And, a lot of people made money thanks to that. Same with here. If you guys listen, right now, we're still bullish. Anyways, that's enough about the long term. Let's start getting into the short term now. So in terms of the short term, we closed bullish yesterday, but we are heading into some sort of a negative PDRA right here. So we are going to anticipate price, getting rejected from this point onwards rather than, breaking through it. But if price breaks through this will set a very beautiful precedent where this is at the moment, a bearish resistance level. If you're able to break through it and flip it into support, then that's good news. And price is going to continue on from that point onwards. We really want to see this level right here at 115,000 get broken through, at least closed above during the daily chart for us to confirm any sort of bullishness. Until then, we're going to play any sort of longs that we do take with utmost caution. It doesn't mean that we cannot take any longs. We just want to play it safe, either taking half risk positions or taking profit at 2R and not looking for too big of a move. Now, obviously, this changes once we get this change in order flow. It's the exact same concept that I shared with you on the weekly chart, where closing below this level right here would have meant a bearish change in state of delivery. Closing above this level right here would be a bullish change in state of delivery, because currently Bitcoin is in a state of bearish order flow. And ideally, we want it to change into bullish order flow before we start taking longs, because ultimately the trend is our friend and we always want to trade with the trend. But anyways, given that the daily bias is bullish, the setup for today is going to be bullish. Again, there is a difference between my opinion that price is likely to dump from here versus what the market is actually telling me. And for the case of today, it is bullish, and so we are going to look for longs. Now, mind you, price could, for example, do something like this at, let's say, 8 a.m. to, let's say, 10 a.m. But then after 10 a.m., it could continue going down. The key with these videos that I'm making is that we are trying to catch one high probability move during the day, and we are not trying to capture the largest move of the day. That is not what this intraday setup is for. So as long as we get our 2R, that is considered a win. Of course, I will be posting any trades that I do take on Twitter. Now, speaking about Twitter for a moment, just to give you guys an update, for those of you, people that are loyal and have watched until this point, I will be flying to Bali tomorrow, and around this time, like right now, I'll probably be still on the plane. So expect there not to be a video tomorrow. Like, I just physically am unable to record a video, but I will be back on Wednesday. And if there is something that needs to be updated tomorrow, let's say there's a trade call or whatever, I'm going to be posting on Twitter. So feel free to just follow me on Twitter at _theartofcrypto. But otherwise, there are a couple of, one is right here on this fair value gap that we are currently in right now. And then the second one is going to be this fair value gap that aligns with this bullish order block. So in the hours between 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. today, if we start getting a bullish reaction from this fair value gap or this fair value gap or this order block. Now, if we get a bullish reaction between 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. around this fair value gap or this order block right here, we're going to be looking for a long. Now, for those of you that are wondering which one is going to be the bottom, I don't know. It's not my job as a trader to figure that out either. Like, all I can say is that these are 3 high probability zones where if you get a bullish reaction in between the hours of 7 to 10 a.m. New York, you are going to have a pretty good time and you're going to have a pretty high probability trade on your hands. And that's ultimately what we're hunting for. As traders, it's not our job to predict. It's our job to map out possible scenarios and then map out the conditions for those scenarios to be fulfilled, and then once they are happening, we simply read and react. So let's just go down to the 5-minute chart to see what we're dealing with. So at the moment, we are retracing on the way to retracing back to the Asia high, which sits at around 110,400. This also aligns with some kind of bullish order block on the 5-minute chart. So there are two possible scenarios here. One is we bounce straight up from this point onwards. Mind you, as of the time that I'm recording this video at the moment, it is 5:50 a.m. In the event that you just go up from here and you break above 111,400, and well, at that point you can just look for a retracement into this newly formed order block and for price to go up. Again, it's 7 to 10. Secondly, you can look for price to come back to the Asia high, fill in this order block, and then if you get a change to state of delivery on the 5-minute, that is going to be your trigger. Now, scenario number 3 is that once you enter here, you're going to sweep out this previous liquidity level right here, fill in the 1 hourly fair value gap, and again, if you get some kind of reaction, I would assume if we go all the way down here, the ideal trade setup is going to be between 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then that's going to be the setup that you take. Now, before you jump to say that, oh, yeah, no, I'm just calling like 3 different scenarios. No, direction is still the same. We are looking for a long. It's just the difference of I cannot predict if this, or this, or this is going to be the bottom. That's it. But the overall direction, that is the call. Now, secondly, another word of caution is the fact that we do not have news today, which means that today is a lower probability day compared to the rest of the week. Now, of course, you can argue that at the moment, the US government is being impacted by a shutdown at the moment, which means that, there is technically no news being released. The beautiful thing about this situation, though, is kind of like it goes back to what I've been telling you guys from the start, which is the news itself does not matter. It is the anticipation of market participants towards the news that is what counts. Just to give you an example, in the last couple of weeks that the US government has gone through a shutdown, every single day at what would otherwise be news days and at news times, the market has been reacting. And guess why? Again, the news doesn't matter. It's just everyone is looking for those times to trade, and that's what makes news days so high probability. So even though we are going through a shutdown at the moment, just take what would otherwise be those news times, and we're still going to be ideally looking for trades on these days. And in this week, we only have one day that officially on Forex Factory has news, and that's going to be on Friday. So potentially Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is not going to be particularly good for trading Bitcoin. And that's normal. If you've ever heard the saying of how some days are not trading days, some weeks are not trading weeks, in this case, it's definitely looking like a lower probability trading week for Bitcoin. Now, absolutely amazing for Canadian dollar. If you look at Canadian dollar right now, you're definitely going to have a very high quality setup, right? This is easy money. Now, if you look at the pound, you're going to have a pretty good setup as well. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that just take into account that we're not going to have much news heading into this week. So it could just be an overall lower probability kind of week. And so again, not to say that we cannot take trades. We just want to really play it safe. We take into account the market conditions that we're dealing with. And in this case, it is not one of those market conditions where we just go full risk and, go balls to the walls. There's a time and a moment to do that, but that is not today. And that is not probable. And that is likely not this week. For example, not only are we running into some kind of resistance at the moment, so we do need to give the market some time to see how it's going to play out, but at the same time, we have no news. And so, ideally, we have just gone through a very big dump, which means the market is still trying to stabilize. So again, all in all, this is not great conditions. I will still be making calls. I will still be making these videos, don't worry, so that you guys can at least still make some money out of these conditions, as we have always done for the last 8 months. But just understand that these are not the best trading setups. And if you ever wanted to take a week off of, crypto or trading or whatever, this is probably a good week to do it. Or if you've ever wanted to pick up USD Canadian, this is also a pretty good week to do so. Very bullish bias. If you take a look at the daily, currently bearish, but price is bouncing from a bullish order block at the moment. Taking a look at 1 hourly, in the event that we break above this level right here, you're potentially looking at some sort of CISD, and this will be in line with tomorrow, where you're going to return back to this area of support, and price is going to shoot once you get CPI and once you get the news event, right? Easy money. It's not about, for those of you that say that, for those of you that wonder if these concepts work on Forex, they do. As long as anything has a candlestick chart, these are the same concepts that work. Ultimately, every single chart, doesn't matter if it's Forex, if it's gold, if it's indices or whatever, they are still the same chart with just different packaging on them, right? One of them is called USD Canadian, the other one's called Bitcoin, but ultimately it's a chart. So if you have a limiting belief that says, if you always trade a crypto, you can only trade crypto, that's false. And I hope that you can take this opportunity to kind of broaden your horizons. Anyways, enough about Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Ethereum real quick. Ethereum is, again, looking very bullish because unlike Bitcoin, right now you are sitting much higher compared to this low right here. Given the fact that you did not come anywhere close to closing below that, leads me to believe that you are looking at a potential imminent alt season. But still, the level remains. I want to see a break above here, 0.0375, a daily close on Ethereum Bitcoin before I consider any sort of alt season. Because if this happens, this is a bullish energy state of delivery, and price is going to turn this entire block right here into support, and price is just going to shoot up from this point onwards. So patience will pay here, but we're probably not going to have to wait super long anymore. Now, of course, if that happens, Ethereum is going to coincide with something like this, where you can look for this. But at the moment, we're just going to play it day by day. In terms of the macro, not enough confirmations yet. So because of the bullish daily close, I'm going to be looking for longs today. And in Ethereum's case, it's so much more clear, right? You have a fair bit of gap that also aligns with this order block. So in the event that Ethereum retraces here, 7 to 10 a.m., take a 2-hour trade. That is simple, easy, no sweat. Let's move on to Solana. So in terms of Solana, weekly looking good. Obviously, you're still bearish weekly bias, but on the daily, you are also looking pretty good. Again, this would be the same level reflected on the Ethereum chart. This is going to reflect on the Solana chart, which is at, let's say, $208. Because we're bullish on the daily bias, we're going to be looking for longs today. And yeah, we don't really have a whole load of levels. One is that we have just filled in this further gap, which means that if price pumps from this point onwards and has a 1 hourly candle close above 194, you're going to get a just some kind of momentum trade, right? This becomes your new order block and you can just trade price higher. So that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is that you retrace back into this further gap / this bullish order block right here. And in the event that you retrace back into here, then this is going to be your setup. Obviously, look for this between the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. But otherwise, guys, I'm going to see you on Wednesday. Again, I'm going to be on a flight tomorrow and see you guys in Bali. Ciao, ciao.